this is a fun topic. I've actually been presenting on this one a good bit lately. I'm assuming it's not surprising that AI is one of those topics that everyone's worried about. This presentation is going to be a little bit different. We're going to get out of the less theoretical of how is it kind of impacting, and actually we're going to kind of see it in how we actually use it, right? So a lot of what you're going to see is real practical examples of how you can actually incorporate AI into your sales and marketing literally today. Your team can start doing it. I did a webinar yesterday online for another association, and we were analyzing PDFs that were an RFP that I downloaded off of a county website in Georgia, and creating summaries and pulling out dates and building agendas. That's going to enable your teams to really kind of harness what we want to do with AI. So, I like the level set. What does artificial intelligence mean for us? And particularly for sales and marketing. We always hear these big things like, oh, it's going to eliminate jobs. I'm an architect, I'm going to be out of a job because AI is going to do it. Kind of, sort of. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. But let's kind of start with basically what this is. So artificial intelligence in this context is a computer, which is the artificial part. The intelligence part is really the data, is what we're really focused on. And some kind of decision without human interaction. Now, it's not without total human interaction because someone had to program it. All of the data that it's using comes from humans. And at the end of the day, humans have to actually refine the data and actually use it. So the key is no human is needed, kind of, sort of, maybe. But what you're going to see is that in order to get the most benefit out of AI, at least for your sales and marketing folks and your proposal management, is a human does need to be involved. They need to look at the content, they need to be able to process the content, and then be able to use the content. So how does this work? You have a question, you have an idea, you give it to AI. AI does something. It gives you an answer, it analyzes, it pulls in content, it searches the internet, it evaluates, does something, and then it spits it out. There needs to be some kind of human refinement. Someone has to look at it, someone has to kind of clean it up, improve it. So a real world example is, I want to write a LinkedIn article on the ACH. I ask AI to do that. AI produces several paragraphs of copy for me. Someone needs to proofread it because it's going to sound mechanical, it's going to kind of sound, it uses a lot of adjectives, I don't know why, but it's almost like it overuses adjectives sometimes. You got to refine it, proofread it, and then someone has to post it on LinkedIn. We're not at the point to where I can just tell AI, do this, and then something ends up on LinkedIn. It just doesn't work that way. Humans need to be involved in this process in order for the content to be effective. So, but you want to know something crazy about all of this. Every single person in this room has been using AI for at least over a decade. The problem is that we haven't been calling it, right? So, when we look at it, if you've ever said, hey Alexa, play Spotify, that is AI. It is contained to just certain commands, but it is AI. If you've ever said, hey Google, hey Siri, Alexa, read my Kindle book, Alexa, enable the skill, use Grammarly. Grammarly is AI. What kind of AI? Well, it's a spell check. It's a grammar check. It checks your data as you're typing. It's looking at a database of properly spelled words and grammar, and it's giving you suggestions in real time. Bixby, if you have a Samsung phone, it's kind of like a Siri. No one uses it, but it's And then Microsoft Word. We don't realize that the grammar checker and the spell checker in Microsoft Word is AI. And you've been using, and every one of us has been using it for years. We just haven't called it. What changed? Well, about a year ago, this concept of ChatGPT came out, and everyone freaked out. Like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. But the reality is that we have been using some form of AI in our lives, and in daily lives, or work lives, or whatever it is, for decades. And it's exciting. Now it's now coming to the forefront. What you're going to find is that each of these applications are now going to start labeling themselves AI. I'm the original AI. And if, for the older people in the room, who remembers Microsoft Clippy? That was an original AI. It was terrible. It didn't really do anything. It was about, and for those that don't know, there's like a Microsoft Office product used to have a little bouncing paperclip. And I don't think it was called Clippy, but it got named Clippy. And you could ask it questions, and it would be able to, it was almost kind of like a little help desk. They got rid of it, they should actually bring it back. So there's been a lot of news about AI. When we think about AI, what's the biggest fear? Like, oh my God, it's gonna eliminate jobs. It's gonna take away creativity. It's gonna drive my car away from me because I didn't make my payment. There's a lot of weird things that people talk about. The biggest one is, am I gonna lose my job? And I think the consensus is that what you're gonna find is you're not gonna lose your job, things are gonna shift. Anytime new technology comes out, it's the same thing happened in the late 80s, early 90s, when the internet came out. Everyone thought they were gonna lose their job because the internet was gonna rule the world. Ended up ruining the world with social media, but it was one of those things to where everyone thought that technology was bad. People aren't gonna lose their job to AI. They're gonna lose their job to people that have learned to use AI. And we can take it one step further. As leaders within your company, if you're not embracing AI, it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's more of a matter of when it's going to happen. What you're gonna see is it's gonna come in stages. Early on, where AI is gonna have the most impact right now is on your sales and marketing content creation side. It's eventually gonna start migrating its way into your back office. You're gonna kind of see it integrate into your accounting systems, your CRM systems, any of your HR systems. AI is gonna eventually go there. The last place it's actually gonna end up is really kind of on the project delivery side. You're gonna kind of see it at the fringes. If you're using drone technology, AI is probably gonna help you. If you're using any kind of imaging, where you're 3D imaging something, AI is probably gonna assist you there. But it's gonna kind of be at the fringes. The guy that has to pull the dirt to do the materials testing, he's not going to be replaced by AI. You know what's going to be replaced? AI is going to replace? The analysis of all the data that is collected, right? So think about that. The guys that are collecting and doing and moving the dirt, their jobs are safe. The people that don't learn how to use AI to analyze that data, to produce that customer report faster, cheaper, they're the ones that are going to be replaced. So keep that in mind. So those learning AI, it's all around idea generation, enhance innovation, being faster, being more efficient at what you do, increase your communication, and better decision making. How cool would it be when you're going into a proposal process, as you're entering in your opportunity into the CRM, that it's looking at all your data and it's going to spit out a percentage of your likelihood? Right, we lead score now, right? We go in there and say we have a 30% probability, it's usually a yes. But imagine that your CRM system is sitting there, you enter in the opportunity, you put in the industry, the geography, the services, all this other stuff. It searches your whole database of everything that you've ever won or lost, and then spits out a percentage that you're likely 60% wins. And you had it. That's the power of AI when it starts coming into the sales and marketing eventually. So looking at the business case for AI, so how's it going to change what we do? I think there's a variety of things. Efficiency, McKinsey, and those that weren't here for the Market Pro conference, Scott, in his ending keynote, had an interesting statistic from McKinsey that was actually just produced this month. McKinsey said that they split their workforce, and they said 50% of the people are going to use AI, and 50% are not going to use AI for several weeks or months, and they're going to measure efficiency. The individuals that were using AI for daily tasks, writing emails, generating content, etc., their performance increased 47%. They were able to produce 47% more work than the people that were not using AI. I use AI every day. Matter of fact, earlier this week, I was writing call scripts for a client and objection handling. AI helped me do that. I was writing an invitation for a product launch event. AI is helping me do that. I'm finding myself, I'm able to generate stuff quicker and able to kind of get it. But the efficiency piece is going to be the big thing. If you could reduce your proposal development time from, say, 40 people hours to 20 people hours, how many more proposals could you do in a month? What else could they be working on that is revenue generation? So it's an efficiency play. It's not a matter of saying that AI is going to replace somebody, but it's also in the sense that if you had a 2-person marketing team and they both have efficiency increases of 47%, you basically have 94% of another person with the same number of people. So you're not increasing your overhead. So AI is going to allow 2 people to act like almost 3 people, right? 4 people to act almost like 6 people. So think about that. Efficiency is going to be good. Personalization is going to be another one. One of those things that you find with AI that's challenging for folks is that they don't use AI in the manner, they don't prompt it. We're going to touch on this in a minute. But they don't prompt it and ask it for information in the appropriate way. So they get generic content. Then they think this content's terrible because it doesn't make any sense. It's gibberish. It's not personalized. There's a way, the way I use AI, I spend about 10 or 15 minutes before I ask it to start producing content because I'm training it. I'll give it something that I've written and I want you to mimic it. So when it goes to write it for me, it's actually already in my voice. So when I take it out of the AI and I drop it in Microsoft Word and I start editing it, it sounds like I already read it. It kind of uses some words that I wouldn't use, so I kind of have to clean it up. But it is one of those things to where the personalization piece is great. So your brand voice, the way you respond to proposals, the way that you write your emails and interact with your clients, you can train the AI to mimic you. Matter of fact, you can get it to mimic anyone. I've had it mimic Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and I asked it to write me a song in the voice of Eminem, and it does it. It's amazing. And it's really cool. You can take the song and actually take it over to this other AI tool, and it'll actually create the lyric. It'll sing it for you, which is, so you can end up creating a whole AI song without actually knowing how to sing it, which I can't. Accuracy and competitive advantage. I know this is we're gonna contradict, it's gonna be a little bit of contradiction, right? We talk about accuracy, but AI also has a tendency to be very inaccurate, particularly if you push the AI. So when I say push the AI, there was an example recently to where there was an attorney that was trying to file a briefing with a court. And he was looking for a particular case, and he kept pushing the AI to kind of find that case. And the AI eventually just made it up. And then he submitted it, and the court caught him and got all in trouble. So the problem is that if you push the AI too far, it starts creating what they call artifacts or hallucinations, right? It's just like, it starts making stuff up. But if you are very concise with what you're trying to do, the accuracy is just amazing, right? I can take something that I've written that's 500 words long, and I need to turn it into 7 paragraphs or 1,000 words. It gets pretty accurate in terms of mimicking my writing style and actually basically supplementing the content that I've already created. So accuracy is going to be a big one. Competitive advantage. There are firms, I've talked to firms, and they're just like, I'm adamant, we're not interested in AI right now. I believe that's an honest mistake, that if you're not at least looking at it and trying to understand it, at a minimum, setting an AI policy for your firm, sticking your head in the sand is not the right strategy. You need to kind of identify somebody, go find a consultant, do whatever you need to do. At a minimum, set an AI policy for your firm. How do we want to use this? What is the review process? And come up with it. Because the reality is that once Microsoft releases Copilot, every single one of your employees is going to have AI in their Microsoft Word, in their Outlook, in their Excel, in their PowerPoint, and anything you do about it. So come up with your policy and figure it out. I would suggest going one step further and actually start figuring out what you're going to do. Because it is coming, and I'm not trying to be fear-based on that, but the reality is that it's going to just be very pervasive, and it's going to be everywhere.
Can you talk a little bit more about what that policy might cover?
Yeah, we can cover that a little bit after I get over the slides, but I have worked with several firms on developing AI policies, and a lot of it falls around intellectual property, what tools to use, what information to put up there. And then there's also a section within that policy that I recommend about review. If you create it, someone else has to see it before it is actually presented to a customer or use line. Simply because there's a variety of artifacts that end up in there that end up creating some falsehoods that we need to kind of go through. But yeah, policy can be very simple. It could be as simple as several different sections, not 1 or 2 pages long, but it is. Well, we could talk about that. Yes.
Has Microsoft already released Copilot?
No, Microsoft it's released to 600 people right now that they're in some kind of testing,
okay.
But it has not been broadly released. You can use a version of it within the Microsoft Edge browser. If you go into a Microsoft Edge browser on Windows, you'll see like a little Bing icon in the corner. If you click on that, it kind of opens up a version of Copilot.
Okay, when's it supposed to be released?
They really haven't said. They're kind of still testing it.
Okay.
I've seen demos of it. It's utterly insane. I mean, it's like you can see a version of it on LinkedIn, by the way. If you get a message from somebody on LinkedIn, go to reply to it, and they'll say, "Hey, do you want to AI generate a response to this email?" And you'll kind of see how it's working. The same concept's going to be applied to Microsoft Word, Outlook, and etc. So just think about that for a second, like having AI just start generating your emails and responses. In any given day, I know no one in this room gets a lot of emails. That's not realistic, right? But just imagine how you can automate your tasks and how more efficient you can be. So consistency in data analysis. Consistency is interesting, right? So being able to look at your existing content and then rewrite it in a different voice. So you could repurpose the same paragraph, right? How exciting is it to explain to somebody, a potential customer, what you do in survey? Survey's not exciting, right? But you want to kind of rewrite it every time you give it to somebody else because you don't want to give them the same content. Get AI to rewrite it for you. Take that paragraph, take that 2 paragraphs, and just ask it, make this the same length, same content, same everything, just make it unique. Boom. 35 seconds later, you have the same content, just written a different way. So rewriting content, consistency is really important. So your teams don't have to get in this mindset of, I have to generate new content and waste all this time generating new content, where they can just take existing content and make it new. Data analysis is probably the biggest impact you're going to see. And it's going to be very pervasive in the sense that it could hit multiple departments or areas within your firm. Data analysis means it can read a PDF and help you figure out how best to respond to a proposal. It could take large swaths of data. So go back to the construction material testing team. They're going out and they're collecting. My son was interning at the firm I was working at, and he was sitting in a truck, and they spent all day walking up a road, taking dirt samples and collecting data. Then they had to come back and put it in a spreadsheet, and then they had to analyze the spreadsheet and then put it into a form. It was a report that was going to a client. Well, imagine you could do the same thing, collect that data in real time. Have AI kind of tell you what the data is telling you, produce the report, then have someone review it. You save a tremendous amount of time. He spent all day collecting, and he spent the whole next day filling out the reports. He could have done everything in all one day. Again, it's efficiency. The other thing on data analysis is that you can start looking at your back office piece. We had a really robust conversation at dinner with the Uninet team about how cool would it be to be able to analyze employee utilization on your timesheets through your ERP, right? Through AI. As a firm leader, you're sitting there, a report is telling you who's utilized, who's not utilized. Or how cool would it be if you could look at rate tables and then have AI tell you whether or not your rates are where they need to be. Maybe they could be 10% higher and still be able to win the work. So there's so much power in the data analysis piece that's going to be coming that I think that you're really going to see the impacts on the back office eventually, that it's going to be one of those things to where, as firm leaders, it's the data that you're going to want to get that you're not getting today. So there's also cost savings. Again, going back, if you can save 50% of your time on a proposal, 10% of time on proposal time, that's overhead that's not being wasted. What else could they be working on that could generate more revenue, more business? This is going to turn in place. So if you do have, your project, your technical delivery folks, none of those guys and girls love to be on proposal teams. That's the last thing that they want to do, right? But if you are able to actually get a proposal already created on content that they've already created, and you're just getting them to review it, they're going to be happy, right? They're one of those things to where they don't have to worry about writing content. It's more about reviewing content. I will tell you, my 30-year career, it is easier to proofread and edit something than it is to create something from scratch. So cost savings, time savings, that kind of falls in the same bucket. And then scalability. If you are a firm that's on the cusp of wanting to grow, none of us are gonna, we're not really big companies like an Arcadis or Jacobs. We don't have 20 people marketing teams. Most of us probably have marketing teams that are single digit, double digit on a very, very low. Most of the time, like my team, we are a 120 person firm. We have 4 people, including my son. right? So the staff is not going to be there. But if we want to continue to grow, again, go back to the 47% efficiency note from McKinsey. Those 4 or 5 people can act like 6 or 7. So again, but there's no overhead that's associated with those individuals. There's no salary, there's no benefits, there's a variety. So there's some scalability and some cost savings that go along with that. So the biggest reason you want to be using AI is your competition is going to be using it. Guaranteed. AI is coming, we just need to kind of embrace it. Again, it's efficiency, it's consistency, it's scalability. If you need to sell it into your firm leaders and your teams and all sorts of stuff, these are the 3 words that you need to tell them. It's, I can reduce overhead, we can be consistent at what we do, and then I can grow, I can continue to grow. Without actually spending a lot of money. I mean, ChatGPT is $20 per month. I think most of us can afford $240 per year for the AI. Right? That's literally probably one lunch. Or I would say plane ticket, but plane prices are so. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to use AI. And we're primarily going to focus on proposals and marketing efforts. When I say marketing, I'm talking social media, I'm talking project sheets, I'm talking SOPs, I'm talking PowerPoints, I'm talking those kinds of marketing activities. And then proposals, we know what proposals are. Particularly like the firm that I was at, we would do a lot of task orders. So we would produce hundreds of these things per month, and it was very time consuming. So we were looking at how do we speed this up. Had a conversation just before we started. Anyone work with SF330s? Those are paid, right? And they're very consistent, and you have hundreds of them, and they sit there, and it's like, well, who's going to scour these things? AI can help. So when we think about some of the examples, so marketing content, LinkedIn posts, articles, if you're wanting to ramp up your company's presence on social media, become that thought leader, AI is the perfect way to do it, right? Go in there and just get it to kind of create your content. I essentially get it to create for one of the firms I'm consulting with. I can do 30 days of social media posts in 1 day. I go to AI, it produces a content calendar for me, it produces all the topics, it'll even go in and then produce all of the content for each of the articles, the hashtags, and then I ask it to give me a prompt that I can go get an image that can be associated with it. I take all of that, I dump it into Word, I spend a day editing, cleaning it up, and then I load it up into Hootsuite or whatever we're gonna do, and I schedule it up for the month, and I don't touch it again for another 30 days. That's the efficiency we're talking about. If you get someone on your team to spend 1 or 2 days per month to create 30 days worth of content that they don't have to touch and have to play with, that's really important, right? So what else could they be focused on? Idea generation. We use AI a lot for generating win themes. How many times have we sat in a proposal meeting where the people that show up for the meeting haven't even read the RFP? Right? How many times have you sat there and you debated what is the win theme? Like what do we want to hang our hat on as the thing that we want this whole proposal to be themed against? I mean, you sit there and it's like 3 hours wasted. But you think about that, you have 10 people in the room and your average billable rate is $100. You're spending $1,000 an hour in lost opportunity with those people sitting in the room trying to figure out how to generate. Cut that in half. AI can help you streamline some of those things. Repurpose content. I absolutely love AI's capability. It doesn't do a good job when you give it a wide open course. It doesn't really know where to go. The more boundaries you can give AI, more context, more training, and a variety of things, it ends up producing really, really good content. Where it shines, absolutely shines, taking something that you've already written and repurposing. I asked a technical lead to give me project sheet writing. I said, I need content from you to do a project sheet. He literally gave me 1 paragraph. I'm like, that doesn't fit on sheet paper. I took that paragraph, dumped it into AI, and it actually created 6 paragraphs of content. It went out and found some news article content for me. It was a Sheraton hotel demolition near the Atlanta airport. It went out there and it found something from the AJC and some other things, and it just built it out. I'm like, man, I probably could have done it myself because I would have, one, been mad at the person because they gave me the content, and then I'm like, oh, this sucks. But it would have been one of those things to where AI simplified that task flow, which was great. Again, streamlined tasks kind of feeds all the things over here on the left. And then you're really, again, going back, expanding your thought leadership. You want to be a thought leader, but you don't have time. You know, how many times does someone say, hey, I need you to write something for me for LinkedIn? No one has time with it. Blank piece of paper, people tend to pause and they don't know where to go. But if I handed you an article, hey, I wrote this article for you, get a chance to read it, and you read it and you make your edits, you spend 15, 20 minutes on it, you're happy, right? Because I don't have to spend an hour trying to think of a topic, think of what to write, think about where to start. AI helped me in terms of, I just gave you something and it's an idea starter, and you kind of go from there. And the more you actually get that person to write, and you take their style, the more and more repurposing that content or generating that content becomes easier because AI is going to mimic their writing style. Solve the blank page problem. Worst place to be is sitting in a proposal meeting and not know where to start. Like, what project was that on again? Where is that? And nobody seems to have a really good system of storing proposals or knowing how to search proposals. AI can do that. AI, you can upload your proposal into AI, and AI can search it and pull out the relevant information for you. Where you're really going to see this shine too, at least on the proposal side, is building resumes. How cool would it be to sit there and upload all of your projects for a project manager and then ask AI to pull out all projects that are related to bridge inspections? I don't have to scour their resume, I don't have to do everything, it's going to go in and it pulls all the relevant information. Then once it pulls it out, ask AI to write me a summary for John Smith and his experience with bridge inspection. And it'll look at all of his projects and then write a summary. That would have saved us hours begging people to give us their resumes and get content. So again, streamline tasks and really kind of streamline your activities around this. Brainstorming and writing a tool. I think artificial intelligence does a really good job when you give it some context to give you ideas. Social media ideas, content ideas, proposal ideas, whatever it is, AI is really good at it. You just got to give it a little bit of, you got to give it some boundaries and go from there. So besides marketing proposals, what else can AI kind of deal with, right? So eventually AI is going to make it into your ERP. It's going to get there at some point. Project management, you know, you start thinking about looking at your tasks. How cool would it be if AI came back and told you that this, even before the project was over budget or running long, it started telling you it's predicting this project has a 30% chance of budget overrun. This project has a 40% chance of an hour's overrun. You start thinking about that. That is a very powerful tool for managers to sit there and say, when I'm looking at my book of business, what's on track, what's off track. Also think about, imagine if your accounting system was really kind of kicking back that this client is likely to pay late, this client is likely to pay on time. So then you can focus on the ones that are likely to pay late so that you can decrease your AR. So there's a lot of benefit in this. Database cleanup, it does a really good job of working with data. So if you need to kind of analyze a spreadsheet, look at large swaths of data, give you summaries of data, which, and one of the interesting things too is that Dave Bernstein, when he saw this presentation on the market forecast report, since last year, every time he produces that report, every now and then he'll send it to me and we'll run it through AI and kind of see the output. And the first time we did it was just after Thrive last year, and AI was just stumbling over itself. And Dave's like, well, this is garbage. It's not really good. About 3 months later, he sent me his next quarterly report. We ran through it. Dave's like, oh, okay, that's getting better. And then the third time we did it, he was like, this is about 80% right. So you kind of see within a 9-month window, it went from this is garbage to, oh wow, it's about 89% right. So think about this, the data cleanup and all sorts of stuff is really going to have a big impact on us going forward. So let's kind of overview some of the tools for marketers, right? And I'm going to show you 3 slides on the evolution of this. This was the first slide that I created around what tools were available 9 months ago. Right? A handful of tools, there's some copywriting tools, there's image tools, there's formatting and templates, there's some data tools. Really, really cool. 3 months after I created this, there was this chart. And 3 months after I created this chart, there was this chart.
Wow.
So, in 9 months, on my radar, there were a dozen tools. 9 months ago, there were a dozen tools on my radar. I don't even know how many tools were on this, and there was a consulting firm that was out there that was counting how many AI tools that were out there, and they stopped counting at 8,000. They're like, we can't, we just, they're literally, every week it's hundreds and dozens and whatever tools being. It literally went from this in February to this, and matter of fact, I pulled this off of the website this morning because I wanted to make sure I had the most up-to-date one. This updates constantly, and it's like Matt Turk, but it's one of those things where I was looking at this thing going, good God. Like, and so people are like, they ask me questions, oh, is there a tool for that? And I'm like, I guarantee there's probably a tool for it. Somewhere. And it covers everything from just basic back-end stuff, to content creation, to analytics, to artificial intelligence. One of the things, I got a question yesterday during another talk that I was having, and they were asking about competitive intelligence. And I ended up responding back to the woman. I said, well, did you ask AI what AI tools are out there that can help you do that? And I gave her the prompt, and we did it, we walked through it, and it gave her a list of tools that her sales team should be using to identify federal projects and budgets and a bunch of other stuff. It was interesting, but it's just, you could even use AI. I use AI to do AI things, by the way. Right? So I'll use ChatGPT to create my image prompt, and then I'll use Midjourney to actually create the image. And then I'll use Photoshop to actually edit the image, which also has an AI in it, by the way. So I'm AIing this thing from start to finish. There's just not one tool. But just know, though, if you are confused on where to start, even the people that are following this on a day-to-day basis are confused on where to start. I don't even, like, I look at some of this stuff and I'm like, that is, like, what is that? And it's a rabbit hole. By the way, you click on one of these things, you start going, oh, that's really cool. And you start playing with it. But then you realize there's 1,000 other ones that are out there. So just know, if you're confused about AI and where you need to start, so is everyone. It's actually pretty crazy. I mean, when you really think about it, a handful of tools a year ago to where we are today, it's amazing. And by the way, these are all like new. There are some, you go back down over here, there are some big players in here, Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, IBM, they're all starting to kind of get into it. So Autodesk is going to be there.
Would you expect that to keep growing, or will it consolidate or go away?
I expect a lot of these to die, right? I think it's easy to get the programming and get it up. I think most of these are gonna not, one, awareness, no one's gonna know that they exist. And then it's gonna die in the line because no one's gonna be using it. I think what you're gonna find is the folks that have the money, their tools are gonna obviously rise to the top. Autodesk, Adobe, all of those, they're all actively looking at inserting AI into their tools. I would anticipate that Autodesk is everything from a Revit to Civil 3D to whatever, it's all gonna have some form of AI in it at some point. And then obviously Microsoft Word. Microsoft has a $10 billion investment in OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. So you can kind of see who's kind of rising to the top on this. Unless one of these kind of just break through, Claude is one that's kind of broken through. Kind of a startup ChatGPT alternative. They're making noise. We'll see where it goes from there, though. So just quick alternatives to ChatGPT, and well, we'll do a quick live demo too, depending on how much time we have. But these are some of the other ones that I've looked at. I do know, again, having dinner with the internet folks, I do know that their company is actually using Jasper. That's one that their company has decided, their AI policy and what they're telling them that they need to use. That's there. I do know that there are other folks that are using the Microsoft one because it's free. It's kind of integrated into the web browser. It's kind of limited in its capabilities, but again, it's a cost-benefit thing that they're looking at. Again, I go back to really need to establish your AI policy for your firm. Figure out what tools they are. If you don't have somebody on your team kind of looking at what these things can do, reading the terms and conditions, understanding how they're using your data, and then building out your policy, you're doing yourself a disjustice. You need to really kind of focus on that. Otter, I love Otter, by the way. Otter's one of those things to where you install it in your web browser, and it automatically takes notes in Teams, in Zoom, so it'll transcribe any meeting that you're in. So I don't take notes anymore. I just use Otter. So Otter's great. Obviously most of these have subscriptions, but Otter's one of those things to where I can really see Otter eventually getting bought out by one of the big teleconferencing companies, because that capability is so cool. I start a meeting, it transcribes everything, I can get it into OneNote, I can email it, I can do whatever I want with it, but it's pretty good. No one wants to go back and watch a recording of a meeting that they missed. They would so how cool would this be? You go into Otter, you get the transcript of that, and then you dump it into AI and tell you to summarize it. Because that's what I do. Because I don't want to read a 1 hour transcript, but give me a 5-minute summary that I can read real quick. So I also want to kind of touch on the difference between a search engine and so it's interesting. ChatGPT is becoming the Kleenex of the world, right? It's a tissue, but it's kind of being applied to everything. Same thing with Google search. I'm going to Google something. Well, it doesn't matter what you use. In this instance, we're talking about the difference between what a search engine is, whether that's Bing, Google, or whatever, and a generative AI, which is a ChatGPT, a Claude. So a search engine can find content, but it's static. You can't ask it questions, you can't interact with it. It's basically just going out to find something and then tell you where to look for it, and then you got to read it, analyze it, etc. It could use current information. So if something was happening today and then you Googled it, it could show up in the news stream. Like if something was happening right now, it could show up. Generative AI is different. You have to treat it like a person, like you're having a conversation. You can ask it follow-up questions, and it can do follow-up information. It's dynamic. It'll adjust based on the conversation. The downside is, in most of the AIs right now, aren't really like real time. So ChatGPT will tell you that it's several months, if not a year behind on current information. So if you're looking for, give me information on the war in Ukraine, it's only going to know up to last February when the war actually just started. It's not going to know everything that has happened between that February and now. It constantly updates itself, but it's always slightly behind. So just know that generative AI typically does not have current information. There are ones that do. So the Microsoft Bing, which is actually integrated into the web browser, actually combines both the search and AI in its same thing. So when you ask it a question, it's doing a web search, but then it's also using all of the information that it's learned. So it's able to kind of be pretty cool because I'm getting real information. ChatGPT had that same feature as a plugin, but the problem was that it was actually going to websites that had paywalls and stealing their information. And so everyone got upset about that. So you ever go to the New York Times or Washington Post or Wall Street Journal and that little banner pops up, oh, become a member for $4 or whatever. Well, apparently ChatGPT was smart enough to get around the paywall, grab the content, and then add it to its database. And then all the content people got really, really mad. They're like, you're stealing my information. So that really kind of shows you the downside of AI. Like if you are a content creator, AI is going to steal your stuff. And that's unfortunate. It's cool for us because we need to, I don't want to run the paywall. So but they took the plugin away, so they're trying to fix it. So we'll see what that goes. So when we start getting into using AI, the big thing with AI is poor instructions equal poor results. And I love to use this example. If you had a first-year staff member or an intern, and all you told them to do was go create a project sheet and gave them no more information, what kind of project sheet do you think you gave them? You didn't tell them about the format, you didn't tell them previous projects, you didn't even tell them who's it for, you gave them nothing. You would probably get back a blank piece of paper. They'd probably sit there all day worried, walking around the building trying to ask people what to do, wasting time. AI is the same exact way. It is literally like the first year person at your firm or an intern. you have to over-communicate to it what you want it to do. I need you to create a project sheet. Here's an existing project sheet that I want you to mimic. Here's the client. This is the format that I want. You give it all the instructions, and then the output is exponentially better. Just like if it was a human. If I gave that intern, here are all of our project sheets that we've ever written. Here's the client that we're going after. We're focused on this service. We're doing this. It needs to be 1 page, no more than 600 words. In this format, you would probably get something back that probably needed some light editing. AI is the same exact way. You give it the same instructions, and all it needs is some light editing. You have to treat it as if it was a human. I talk to it as if I'm talking to a person. I need you to do, and this is really weird. I tell it thank you. I don't know why. Like you give me a response, I'm like, thank you, and it responds back, and it's like, this is so weird. But it's almost kind of like I do it out of habit now, which is, and I'm usually doing it by myself, so there's a lot of curse words that go along. Like, what are you doing, idiot? So I do find that funny. So I do conversate with it as if it was a human. So there's this concept that for the folks that were actually in the Market Pro conference, one of the presenters kind of touched on this concept of prompt engineering. And prompt engineering it's a fancy way, these tech people like to give these really complex, convoluted terms to these things. But what prompt engineering is it's essentially telling the AI what you want it to do. You're just prompting it. I need you to do this. And there's just some very specific things that you need to do in order to get the results that you want. You really have to be very clear and concise. Again, go back to the intern example. How do you interact with your interns when you're asking them to do something? You're going to get better results the more information you give them. Remember, the more effective that you could write the prompt, the better the results are going to get. One of the things that I do a lot of before I even start generating content is I'm doing my prompt engineering, and we're going to cover prompt priming here in a second. And prompt priming, I'll spend 10 or 15 minutes getting the AI ready before you even generate any prompt. And there's some really cool things. And you talk about elevating your prompts, and then we're going to touch on this in a second, is I give the AI a bunch of information, then I tell the AI, I say, okay, now ask me a series of questions that's going to help you better answer my question. And then it asks me like 10 questions, I answer those questions, and all of my content is 70, 80% on spot. And then take it into Word, and then clean it up. The basics, be specific, break up bigger asks. If you're you don't want to go in there and say, hey, write me a whole proposal. It's going to fall flat on its face. Break it down. I want to focus on one section at a time. We're only going to focus on the company intro, the quals. And if you break up the task into smaller pieces, AI shines. You give it some big task, and it's going to really fall on its face. Ask the same thing multiple ways. Matter of fact, when I was teaching a class on this, when we were actually doing some online, real live demonstrations on this, I had them open up 2 different AIs, open up ChatGPT and open up Claude, and take the same prompt and put them in both, and see the results. And it was funny. We were going in and we were creating win themes for a proposal, and ChatGPT came out with, it was like 12 questions with 2 sub-questions for each thing that they wanted to ask. Claude was 6 questions. So there's no rule that you can't use multiple AIs to try to get your result. But ask the same thing to multiple AIs or even to the same AI, and you'll get varying answers and results. But it's really cool that you can kind of hone it in, which is actually one of the really cool things, because some AIs actually perform a little bit better than others in terms of their quality of output. So sometimes I'll generate content in one AI, take it out, and then I'll put it in another AI to refine it. Okay, now take this and rewrite it. Jasper does a great job in terms of not sounding mechanical, right? It doesn't sound like it's robotic, but it's also $60 a month per user, right? Where ChatGPT is $20 a month. So you see the quality of the application is really kind of built into the subscription. Give ChatGPT, and again, I'm using this as this is a Xerox or Kleenex, but give it something to go by. And that's the concept of priming the AI. When I say priming the AI, I'm giving it content that I've already written. I'm giving it the proposal that I've already responded to. I'm telling it a bunch of stuff before we even start writing the content, and that gets the AI kind of boxed in. So how to write a better prompt? So you want to tell it what you want the AI to act like. I need you to be a project manager. I need you to be an architect. I need you to be a marketer, a social media expert. How many people have full-time PR people on staff? Yeah, some of the bigger firms. Some of the small firms, no, you don't. Act like a PR analyst. Act like a PR specialist. Be a copywriter. So tell it what you want it to be. Again, can't harp on this enough. Talk to it like it's a person. Kind of weird, but it works. Surprisingly, very well sometimes. Give it something that you've already written. Ask it to mimic your style. Tell it you need it to be professional. Tell it you want the language to be, clean, crisp. Have a female voice. Have a male voice. Speak. I want you to speak like an engineer, or I want you to speak like a doctor. Tell it. Mimic somebody. You can actually, it loves to mimic celebrities, which is interesting. Tell ChatGPT who you are. I usually start my prompts with you are and I am. Completely sets the context of where we're going with this. You are a copywriter, I am a project manager, we're responding to a proposal. Do you understand that request? ChatGPT goes back and says, yep, I understand. So tell them who you are. Tell the AI who you want it to be. Again, it's like role play. I need you to be this, I'm going to be this, and we're going to do this. Completely sets the context. Tell it what industry we are responding to. The AEC industry. It's a transportation project. We're going after a Department of Transportation or Department of Aviation. Again, what you're doing is you're building walls and boxes around the AI so that it's going to create content within that box. If you don't put those boxes and walls around the AI, it goes off all over. Have fun with it. I mean, go in there and just leave it open-ended and kind of see what it produces, and it produces some wacky stuff. Layer your prompts. I start off with, I am, you are, this is what we're focused on, and then start going into, these are my customers, this is my kind of buyer. And so I start layering it, and then each layer, everything above the chat, the AI uses. So all the context that you give it, everything. I'm going after a city manager that manages water within my county, and you are a consultant, and I am this, and those are all layers. And if you do that, you'll get better results out of your content. Prompt priming. So again, we're going to touch on this real brief because I've already talked about it. It's giving it context and content before it actually starts creating something. Why do you do it? The content is intended to guide ChatGPT towards generating a response that is more relevant to what you're wanting. You leave it wide open, it's going to be wide open. But if you keep narrowing it down and giving it more context and information, it's going to produce the result that you want. The biggest complaint that I get from most people is, I've tried it and it produces gibberish, or it's something that's not helpful. Well, unfortunately, it's because of how you prompt. So that's why you want to do it. You can cut and paste whole sections of proposals, content that you've written, anything. And ChatGPT will use it to kind of create content. Now, if you have the paid version, you can actually upload the document, a Word document, a PDF. I recommend PDFs versus any others, mainly because PDFs, once it's a PDF, it maintains its structure. ChatGPT does a terrible job with an unstructured document. It does a terrible job with unstructured data. So if you're going to put data into this, make sure your formatting and everything is kind of solid. Loves PDFs, hates pretty much anything else. It does love CSV files, so if it's a flat data file, it doesn't matter. Mainly because when you flatten the file, it's either comma delimited or tab delimited. And it has structure to your data, which just helps it kind of capacity. And then so how does it work? Before you prompt the AI, you're providing details. And so here's an example. I need to respond to this RFP section, title, insert the title section. Use this copy as reference to match my writing style. Here's an example of a recent copy that I've used before. Respond to the RFP, respond to a similar RFP, and then I basically paste the content below that. What you're gonna see here is I'm layering my thing. What you don't see above this is all the setting of who we are and who I am is really the prompt before this. But this is the prime example of priming.
When you do all this priming, is that then specific to your session, or does that reside there the next time you come back?
Kind of both. So it will reside, so if you look at ChatGPT specifically, in your chat window, it saves it. And anytime you respond to that chat, it's using everything above it. If you start a new chat, it's only gonna use what's in that chat, but you can cut and paste what you've done previously. So one of the big questions I got recently was, well, when I answer the 12 questions about my company, do I have to answer those 12 questions every single time? No, you do it once, save it in a Google Doc or Word doc, and then use it as a priming saying, here's questions that I've answered before that you've asked me, and then paste it, and then ChatGPT moves on. So you don't have to keep answering the questions over and over again, just save it, and then go back. Yes, right.
What is the difference between priming it in separate chats versus just putting all of that information in the initial one and sending it to you?
Yeah, so if you're creating content for one specific topic, you would want to keep it all in one chat. If you're kind of deviating to say like a different section of a proposal or something like that, you really want to start a new chat because at some point it starts to freak out when there's too much.
I'm saying going back and forth, rather than go back and forth saying, this is who I am, this is who you are, and then
Yeah, so there's
just put it all in one.
So within ChatGPT, they have a new feature now that you can actually set all those features. I'll show you guys here in a second. But there's a way for you to set that where it applies to all of your chats. Like you could say, you can put all the information about your business and all this other stuff, and it actually saves it to your profile. But then it applies to every chat that you're using. Since I'm working with multiple clients sometimes, I don't do that because the profile of the client can change. So I don't want it to.
But even within that, when I'm using the word chat, I'm talking about like, rather than go back and forth, just put it all in the first
You could.
input that you do. You don't
The
have
only limitation to that is that it's limited to 25,000 characters. So for each time you go to prompt it, it's limited to 25,000. Now 25,000 characters is a lot of data. Most small business books are 50 to 60,000 words. So 25,000 words is about half of a business book. So just keep that in mind. They say limitations, but it's very unlikely that you have something that's you're not cutting and pasting 80 pages of content. So, but yeah, you could put everything in there, and I've done that as well. There's a question about.
Yeah, I was just curious. How is this as far as security, proprietary information? You're not pulling all this stuff. I mean, is that
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second.
Okay.
And what you'll find with that is it's going back to the concept. That's what you need your AI policy. ChatGPT will kind of help you mitigate some of that, but there are other ways to get around this. So here's an example real quick. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to write some copy for my business. This will include LinkedIn profiles, content, et cetera, et cetera. Before we begin, I want you to fully understand my business and customers. Ask me at least 20 questions about my business, customers, audience, and anything else you need to complete your task to the best of your ability. I write this. It asks me the questions. I answer the questions. I spent 20 minutes. I haven't created a single ounce of content. But this context has now given the AI the boundaries that it needs to create the content that you want. So, all right, demo time. So this is ChatGPT. It's pretty basic if you haven't seen it. These are all your saved chats. This is your chat window. Again, can be used in any web browser. There's a paid version. It's flexible with plugins. Bing AI, open up your Edge browser. If you click on the little blue icon on in the corner, that sidecar opens up and the chat window's there. You can click on chat in the menu and it kind of opens up the window. Same thing, you kind of put your chat bot there. Claude is the new one that's out there. It's kind of getting a lot of buzz. Pretty powerful, but it's basic. Right? You got your chat window, kind of go from there. Midjourney, These are prompts that we've used. I've asked it, imagine a black, strong, educated male in the style of the Black Panther. It actually gave me the Black Panther, which was I thought was. So I don't know how AI it is, but it like when you prompted it, it actually gave you a picture of the actor, which I thought was kind of weird. Imagine a female, light brown, curly hairstyle of a millennial that's feisty, smart, intelligent, fashionable, and it produces imagery. So how does this work for us, right? Imagine a building in a city like Atlanta that's surrounded by an urban forest. By the way, these images here are about 6 months old. The stuff that it's producing now, it's literally lights out the top. It's like, you look at it and it's like you can't tell the difference between what a photograph is and what it's actually pretty insane. By the way, the image on the book that I'm going to give away at the end of this for the AI book I wrote is actually an image just created in AI.
That's Midjourney?
This is Midjourney, yes. Dolly 2 is another one that's out there. I haven't really played with Dolly 2, but again, you can kind of see the power. When you think you're an architecture firm, if you think you can avoid technology like this in terms of generating concepts and ideas, you're fooling yourself. Your competitors are going to do it, and this stuff is going to be insane. If this is what it looked like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, just imagine what it's going to look like 16 months from now. So proposal with themes prompt. We got here, you're an architect that designs large commercial office buildings. I'm a potential client. Write me several win themes and strategies that would position you to win your business. Right? It's a great prompt. Now, if you prime this thing with who you are and what you do and what your projects are, it's going to produce some lights out content for you that it's all you got to do is edit it, clean it. This is what it produced. That one prompt previously produced this. Absolutely, I'm thrilled to collaborate with you on designing the next commercial office building. Here are several win themes and strategies that will showcase the value that you can bring to this project. The AI is telling you that. That's kind of crazy. It's talking about innovative functional design, sustainability green buildings, customizing your brand identity, future-proofing and technology integration. How cool would it be to walk into a proposal meeting with these ideas that are starters? Customize them to your firm. You don't have to use what's written, but it has generated a bunch of ideas that you don't have to debate for 3 hours to get to this place. And the cool part is they're already giving you a description. But it's like, how easy could it be that you could do this, and then the person that is starting that meeting does all this before you walk in? So you can see the power of that. This simple prompt generated that much content. And this is what's going to hurt your head. Less than 30 seconds. Is it accurate? Is it what? I don't know. But someone's going to have to read it. A human's going to have to read it. And then all you have to do is customize it for your firm. Customize it for your studio, right? You're an architecture studio. I got you some win themes that you guys can see. Great. LinkedIn articles. You're a social media expert. Provide me a list of LinkedIn article topics concerning ERP, using that project management software focused on the AEC industry. Provide this in the table and topic headline hashtags for each topic and a brief summary of the topic. This is what it produced. I have all my topics, I have my hashtags, and I have my summaries. I then ask it, now write the article for the first topic, second topic. I have essentially created a dozen posts, thought leadership posts that I can now customize and use on my website. Use cases, copy generation, case study, rewriting existing copy, proposal copy, marketing. We've covered all these things. You know that they're there. So understanding the limitations of AI, going back to the question in the back. It can be flawed and it will make mistakes. Hence why you need a human to read it. Here's an example. Someone took the US Constitution, put it into AI, an AI detector, and it said it was likely written by AI.
I've always thought so.
Right? So think about that. A document that was written in the 1700s, the AI detector said it was written by AI. So apparently our founding fathers were really mechanical when they wrote, or aliens. Well, we're not going to go there. So objections or concerns, and we're touching on the topic of proprietary content. Plagiarism, legal concerns, lack of originality, poor quality, misleading information, lack of human touch, lack of context. AI can be wrong, Search engines will eventually prioritize AI, human-created content over AI content. Don't know how they're going to do it, but they're starting to kind of figure that out. Amazon, if you are a self-publisher, they are now asking you to tell them whether or not you've used AI in any form or fashion in your book. So it's getting there. Some tools are free to use. Most of them you're going to have to pay for. That's kind of a downside. So ChatGPT will tell you a bunch of disclaimers right up front. Don't blame us if this is wrong. It'll also create biased information. So sometimes it won't allow you to use ask it certain things. It just won't. It put boxes around some of that stuff. But just know that they're very limited, and ChatGPT covers that. Proprietary content. So the question back there. So ChatGPT, not all AIs do this, but ChatGPT gives you the ability to turn off your chat history and training. What that does is allows you to put your information in there, and ChatGPT is not going to save it. Whether or not they're doing that or not, they're telling us that they are, right? If you go into this a little further and you read it, they tell you that they retain it for 30 days before it's deleted, but it is not added to their database. So when I went and read the terms and conditions, when you're thinking about proprietary information and you're concerned about proprietary information, go to data controls, turn that off. It applies to everything though. So it's not just one chat, it's everything within your account at that point is not going to be used or saved. So your saved window on the side is going to be blank because it's going to delete every 30 days. So anything that you create, make sure you're saving it out to a Word doc or a Google document so that you have it. But if you are concerned about proprietary information, this should be part of your AI policy. If you are going to use ChatGPT in my firm or this firm, you are required to turn this feature off. That is a policy. It could be a bunch of other things too, right? You could say, if you really don't, like if you're dealing with classified projects, military projects, and stuff that you don't really want to share, do not use any of the public data. Look, I know. I'm getting the window there. All right, so summary. You guys are going to get a copy of this presentation. Will it lose my job? No. There's good, lots of good. There is some bad. Keep that in mind. And then want to deeper dive into it. Actually, it's signed too. So I don't even know, like, what do we want to, how do I give this away? Lucas, give me an idea.
On how to give that away?
Yeah. Ask ChatGPT. Let me think of a great question for that. I don't know. Oh, I got one. So, and anyone remember the simple equation for a good prompt? So, or what creates a bad prompt, right? It's
lack of information.
No. There was an equal sign. There was an equal sign in there.
Oh. It was basically garbage in, garbage out.
Pretty much it. Yeah. Poor instructions. Poor instructions equal poor results, right? There you go. All right. There we go. But anyway, the book is available on Amazon. Not that I want to sell it to you guys from the stage, but if you are interested in, it's basically 200 pages of this presentation. So it goes into actual examples of and why you want to do it. If you have any questions, I do have, I think, nope. Connect me on LinkedIn. Send me an email. I think I'm in the app as well. You got questions about your AI policy, you have questions about how you get your team going, all that other stuff, just let me know. And I'd be more than happy to